Dale, if you haven't done it already, hit the transmission button for
We're live.
YouTube. We're live. Excellent day. Okay, welcome everybody to the November meeting of the Warren Astronomical Society. I am Diane Hall, your current president for the year 2021. And tonight is election night to set the course for the club next year. In the meantime, we've got our normal range of stuff to talk about. So, we are presently dispensing with In the News in the Sky in visual form because I'd like to get in some special Treasury business during the course of the officer report. So the 7:35 timestamp is not happening. We will push that back to later in the meeting. And as far as officer reports go, as your president, like to say that the current board has been great in keeping the ship afloat during another year of pandemic astronomy. We have managed to phase back in-person open houses for the first time since last February. And Riyadh will be talking more about that in his report. We are phasing back in outreach in person, and Bob will be talking a bit more about that. And we have a blueprint set up to return to meetings at Cranbrook. So we are hoping to be able to make that transition in the first quarter of next year. Macomb is going to be a little trickier, and we have some contingency plans. But we hope that this is one of the last virtual Cranbrook meetings that we're going to have. Keep your fingers crossed, get your booster shots, get the kiddies vaccinated now that the Pfizer shot is being approved for the under 12s. And I will happily pass things over to Dr. Dale Parton.
Thank you, Diane. At our next meeting on November the 18th, John Benuto and Tom Krosky will give a presentation on selecting targets for this season's viewing or imaging. Sounds kind of interesting. Might get us looking at something new. Then a month from now, on December the 6th, Bob Tremblay will have a panel discussion on the following interesting sounding topic: anti-science sentiment in the United States. If you'd like to participate, talk to Bob. Diane, back to you. That ought to be a hot one.
Fabulous, fabulous. I can't wait to see the fur fly. All right, and over to Riyadh, second VP Observatory Chair, for the latest on Stargate.
Yeah, thank you, Diane. Hello, everyone. As Diane mentioned, we just had our first in-person open house at Stargate since about a year and a half now. So that was on October 23rd. And basically we had kind of started out as cloudy skies with the promise of some clearing. And we ended up with a few holes in the clouds here and there. We were able to look at Jupiter and later on looked at Saturn. As the clouds later on started to break up, it got a little bit better. So we had roughly about 25 people, maybe or so, attending, including some members of the Warren Astronomical Society, as well as some general public members who were very interested in looking through the telescope. And we also had a number of scouts that attended with their guides. So all in all, it was a decent open house, not bad for kind of a cold and a little bit mostly cloudy night. I want to thank everybody who attended and everyone who participated with our request to mask up and only have one person at the observatory at a time, or unless you're same family, we allowed that as well. So based on that, I think what we'd like to do is have all future open houses similar to what we just did. The next open house is going to be on November 27th. And hopefully we'll have some maybe clear skies, and maybe we'll see everyone there. And if, the rules are going to be basically the same, so if everyone kind of helps out with that, I think we will have the same rules for a little while until maybe for a few months until we decide, or depending on the pandemic, if things improve, then maybe we'll decide eventually to go back to normal. But in the meantime, let's keep the masking, and the one person maybe at the observatory at a time. We also had, with the help of Dale Parton, we also had the kind of an eye protection with some sponge that basically foam that was cut up. And people use that also to put on the eyepiece, so we don't have the chance of transmitting anything through the eyepiece from one person to the other. So, so hopefully we'll see everybody at the next open house. Thank you, Dan.
Excellent, Riyadh. Thank you so much. Over to Mark Kedzier at the secretary's desk.
Thank you, Madam President. The October minutes are in our wonderful WASP publication that hopefully everybody has read, and that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Short and sweet. Okay, over to Adrian at Treasury with an important update on the Astronomical League that we are folding in to the Treasury report for this meeting. Take it away, Adrian.
All right. Actually, there were two things. One, Astronomical League. We're going to be paying a little closer attention to membership renewals for the Astronomical League, and I, of course, encourage everyone who is a member of the Astronomical League now, if you're receiving publications, to when you renew your membership, include the 750 for the Astronomical League as well. We're going to make sure that we have an accurate count so that we can send to the Astronomical League of our membership and how much it'll cost. So please when you renew your membership, please consider joining the Astronomical League. There are some benefits, and as well as the conferences, which right now they're all online. So once things improve with COVID, they'll be back to having conferences at different locations as well. So any questions about the Astronomical League as well as the RASC? I'm a member of RASC, so I'm going to be looking to get the club discounts on things like RASC calendars and the Observer's Handbook from RASC and anything else that's being shared with other clubs. So if interested, you can email me, treasurer@warrenastro.org, which I'll type up later and put into the chat for email. For those that are renewing a membership, PayPal is the preferred way to go, and my preferred way for receiving updates or new membership or membership renewals. And what I was going to do really quickly was see if I can do this. Share my screen. I'll try and keep it really brief. Show you all how to use PayPal to renew your membership. So if you go to the Warren Astronomical Society and just click join, and then just scroll down, join now is sending PayPal. Make sure to give us your preferred email address and your mailing address. Click that button and you'll be sent to PayPal to donate. And then all you have to do is type in whatever you're going to donate. So for instance, individual would be $37.50. I wouldn't recommend doing this unless you feel generous and want to give us some money every month. And then donate with PayPal. You click on that and you will then get a form to finish filling out. You can donate with a debit or credit card, as we just had one member do that using its credit card, or donate with your own PayPal account. And then you'll be asked to fill out information. And that's where we would want you to include your home address, phone number, we can contact you so that we can update our records with your information. So if you have any other questions about doing that, also you want to see or send email to treasurer@warrenastro.org. And
Questions?
that's where I'm going to. Yes.
How
Go ahead,
does
Dale.
somebody know, what if somebody's new and doesn't know how much to donate for membership?
Well, that is one of the questions that I would answer. And I happen to have a form that a member sent in. I can type that information in to the chat where it shows the various prices. For a senior individual, it's 22. For an individual, it's non-senior. And I'll have to look this up. I believe we cut the senior at 60 years old, but I'll verify that. And
Yes.
then there's okay, so 60 years old, it's 22 for an individual, and it's an additional $7 to make it a family membership. So not only you, but then members of your family, which you can designate, would then become monthly members. So sons, daughters, grandsons. And then the Astronomical League is an additional $7.50. So I believe that was on our website with the information for that. Yep.
Yes.
Let me
The rates are on the website.
yeah.
It's just the website,
Yep.
it's not quite as slick as people are
There we
used to
go.
these days.
How much would it cost
Yep.
if the applicant has pictures as gorgeous as yours are?
So say that again. I thought I was sharing. Yeah, here we
Yeah,
go. Say that again,
if
David.
the applicant has pictures as gorgeous as the ones you've just showed us, how much would the membership be in that case?
It'll be double. No, it's just kidding. Nope, it'll still, despite having those beautiful pictures, it's still going to be, as you can see on the screen here. We've got student membership level, senior citizen level here. It is over 60 years of age, an individual not fitting a category, and then we add on family, $7. We will consider taking those pictures. If they come in and the pictures look as good, or even if they're your pictures, David, which are what got me started in the first place, then those pictures can be submitted for our calendar, which this may or may not be a good time to announce, but we are still looking for entries for our Warren Astronomical Society calendar. And so those submit those to our award-winning newsletter editor, Dale Timmy, and they will be considered for the 2022 calendar. Let's see. It looks like my camera went down, but that's okay. You can still hear me, hopefully. So here's the information on what you owe if you want to become a member, and you would simply fill in those values to PayPal, and then you would be all set. So any other questions? I'll leave this screen up while entertaining any other questions.
Thank
Any
you, Adrian.
excuse to show your wonderful photographs is really welcome. Thank you.
Not a problem. Here, there you go, David.
Ooh.
One of my favorite immaculate shots of a 2-minute shot of Orion, the Orion Nebula, and the Running Man NGC 1977. How I pulled it off in only a 2-minute and or so frame, that to that point had been the darkest place I'd gone. And of course, I've gone to even darker spots, but I did not try to recreate this shot. I wish I had.
Adrian,
So
your
maybe next
picture,
time.
I look at your pictures and they are Mozart. They're that good.
I appreciate it. That's why I went out looking for Aurora. Oh, the Aurora report. It was very weak. Only a couple of people got anything at all. So with that, that will end my treasurer's report, David. as always, thank you. Your compliments keep me going. And for the rest of you in the WAS, any other questions about the money, just check out the report in the WAS. That's where my latest report is as far as our account balances and membership, which we are at 186 members.
Woo!
Pending new membership from we had an inquiry from someone who wanted to become a new member. So when they send in their information and money, there will be 186.
That is truly amazing.
Yeah, that's one good thing from the pandemic is that astronomy, those that had thought about becoming members of a club, decided to make the jump. And our speaker, Bob Berta, played a pretty good role. I believe he was responsible for about 10 people by himself. So you're listening to Bob Berta, you'll want to join the meeting. You'll want to join the WASP if you haven't. After you listen to Bob's talk, go to PayPal. I'll be accepting new memberships for those of you that are on that are not members yet. And renewals are welcome at any time. We'll anyone that renews now will be good until December 31st of 2022. That's it for my report, unless there's any other questions.
All right. So over then to Bob Tremblay at Outreach.
Outreach. Oh boy. I said, well, as I said at the last meeting, the outreach team here at this club makes my job easy. My wife and I, as I reported in the WASP, are running the after-school club, and no curriculum survives contact with the students. For 2 weeks now, had a list of what we wanted to do, asking questions all over the place, which is great. Dale Parton has been giving presentations. He gave a presentation for a homeschool group and I've had this happen before, a fairly poorly attended presentation at a library, which is really frustrating. Sigh. Mark Kezier has been doing a whole lot with telescope library programs. He's going to be doing something at the Ferndale Library at November 11th. He's also been working with the NASA My Grant program at the Warren Civic Center Library, but we may be having some procedural issues with that, so more information on that later. Other than that, so in the WASP, we have members doing things on a weekly basis. Diane and Marty are doing the Space Pirates Radio. Ken Burton is doing a weekly Facebook thing, and Adrian is doing his Explore Scientific thing, and those are all plugged in the WASP somewhere. So other than that, this is going to be, well, this isn't my last time I'm going to be talking as outreach. So I'm being term limited out on the elections today, so this is going to be the last official. But other than that, that's well, we're doing observing reports, aren't we?
Yes,
Bob,
sir.
you're still
Okay,
in office until the
I'll
end
wait
of
for the
this
next
year.
thing.
Yeah, you're not off the hook for outreach until January
Yeah.
1st. So
Okay.
you've got one more meeting to go.
All right. Other than that, that's it for outreach. I'm
All
thrilled
right.
I'm thrilled we're getting back at live telescope at the observatory. I'm going to be contacting Mark Musen and have him contact all the teachers in Macomb about that. So, yay.
All right, over to Dale Teamy at Publications.
Thank you, Diane. The WASP obviously is up. Quite pleased with this issue, and working on December's already, of course. And we also are going full steam ahead with the calendar committee. Still looking for more pictures. We'd like to have a big pile to choose from. So if you have astronomically related or WAS related pictures to submit, send them on into publications at warrenastro.org, and we'll be happy to add them to the selection list. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Dale. Okay, closing on 8 o'clock here. Let's hand things over to we got a representative from the solar team tonight. I don't see Solar Marty. Anybody got some pictures of the sun to throw up? Bob, okay. Bob, what have you got for us?
Unprepared once again. Hold on. SDO. If you want to see what I'm doing, I just type SDO NASA, and that's what I go to. Okay, the sun now. Sun now. Let's see, what do we got here? On the surface of the sun. Holy mackerel. We've got, well, let's do this one. All right, share screen. This is showing magnetic pole on the sun. So you can see there's a lot of active regions there. Let's show a different one. This is the face of the sun. Is that being shared?
Yes.
Okay, so the face of the sun, we got several spots there. We got a big one there. We got a really big one there, and one rotating out of view. A lot of plage area down there. So, and let's see. Corona. I love these guys. Data length, 48-hour video. All right, so this is the last 48 hours. Whatever that is flaring like crazy. A lot of prominence. The holy mackerel. Look at that. If you had a solar telescope, this would have been great the last couple of days to get that out there and look at this. So, wow, that region down there in the lower right is going crazy. So the sun is getting very active. So if you got a solar telescope, now is the time to get that sucker out and start looking at it.
There's been a coronal mass ejection, by the way, over the last week, just for your edification.
And you're going to start seeing
a
more
large
and
one.
more of those things.
Yeah, and I think
there's
it just barely missed us because
Yeah,
we
right.
didn't get the aurora that we had hoped for.
So there's the
Yep.
corona. It's a lot of coronal loops. You can see those active regions have a lot of coronal activity, especially down there in the lower right. That thing is active as heck. Look at that thing. Wow. So yeah, the sun's very active, very impressive.
Very good. All right. Back over to Riyadh for the double star group update.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Because of the clouds, we were not able to go chase after double stars. However, two items on the list did make it, which is Jupiter and Saturn. And the picture that you see behind me here of Jupiter, actually, this is through the 8-inch refractor, but only taken with a cell phone and magnified quite a bit. So obviously it's not very clear, but the image in the telescope was absolutely amazing. So hopefully when everybody's back, everybody gets a chance to look through the telescope, through our great refractor and see the images for yourself. So that's all I have right now.
Thank you, Riyadh. And over to history group.
Oh, still on hiatus.
We may be purging the storage unit of some documents, which means we may be sending a bunch your way. Storage unit needs
Okay.
some space.
I better make some room for it.
We've still got a chunk of the Kim Dyer collection on us.
Ah,
All right. And astrophotography.
Is Bill Beers here?
I don't see him.
Or Doug? I think we don't have Doug Bach. So that means you're stuck with wide field astrophotography. With the weather, it hasn't been very good, but a lot of the astrophotographers that were down at Okie Tex revealed a lot of images, which I don't have queued up, but a lot of the favorites like the Iris Nebula and the Heart and Soul region, which let's just go ahead and share. I shared most of the pictures from Okie Tex. I don't recall if I shared my feeble attempts at doing some wide field astrophotography, but there were a lot of visual astronomers attempting to view these targets, the heart and the soul. And a lot of folks were saying, "Are you imaging?" And they like, "No, I want to visualize it." The light from these targets is just about all hydrogen alpha and can generally only be imaged, not seen. And of course, it's not far from the double cluster, and it sits within the plane of the Milky Way galaxy. So lots and lots of stars. The way that this is usually processed is to run PixInsight or other programs to diminish all of these stars or lessen them, and then really bring out the brightness in the heart and the soul. I left it as is. I was just happy to get something, because of course I like doing wide angle astrophotography, and I had a comparison.
Adrian,
Yeah,
are you going to share the picture?
I forgot to hit share.
That's better.
Okay. Well, these are all the pictures somewhere up here. All right, so take what I just said about the heart and soul, and now you actually see what the heart and the soul. As I said, without some sort of filter or night vision goggles, seeing the heart and soul visually, you generally can't. You have to either image or you have to use some sort of night vision to see it. But the double cluster looks beautiful in scopes, and there were a few shots at the heart and soul in the double cluster because of the position of Cassiopeia, that whole region in the sky. Difference between shooting at Bortle 1 versus, say, Bortle 3. This is with a non-modded camera at Bortle 1. And compare all of the data that I got with a non-modded, pretty sure this is a non-modded camera, as I took both of them, compared with a shot I just took with a modified camera, which is somewhere around here, as of a couple nights ago. The same region with a modified camera in Bortle 3. Pretty much got the same information. So depending on Bortle sites, there's so much more light coming down from the night sky that your sensor can pick it up without needing to be specially modified like my camera was. So here's the Orion region shot at Bortle 3 and with the modified camera. So you do see the rosette here. You're seeing star clusters, and it's a beautiful picture. But same picture taken Bortle 1, same settings, and look how much more data I got. And this is actually a little wider angle. I got the Pleiades and California Nebula in that shot.
Is that air glow in the lower left there?
That is air glow.
Wow.
And so the difference between shooting in dark skies versus sort of dark, this is one of David's favorite shots, an attempt to shoot Orion and the winter Milky Way coming from it. This was about a minute and a half to, I want to say, 2 minutes, which is why the trees were blurry. So go to the pros at Bortle 1, shoot the same region, get zodiacal light and a clear Milky Way in 30 seconds. So now
I think that's the brightest zodiacal light I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, it was very visible. I stepped outside to look up and it was visible. And when the moon rose in the zodiacal light. I don't know if I've showed that image before, but this is my attempt to try and recreate what I saw, but nothing beats eyesight. This was absolutely fabulous, seeing it with your own eyes and then seeing the zodiacal light climb up And I took it at this exposure so that the moon, the crescent moon, would be the star of that show. And that it's sometimes it's more beautiful to just gaze at the night sky, and pictures can't necessarily do it justice. You see, I've been trying to shoot the Milky Way for all of these years, best I could do. And I do believe this was unmodified at Lake Hudson Dark Sky Park. A lot more water, so it's a little more scenic. About the same amount of time shooting at Okie-Tex. That's how your Milky Way looks in a Bortle 1 sky. So it's a huge difference. And I'll go ahead and I'll stop there because we can move on. But so yeah, it does make a difference where you shoot. When you are doing classic astrophotography, like Paul, a couple of others, as you know, you need more frames in more light polluted skies before you start getting that type of detail. When you travel someplace dark, you don't need as many frames to get that detail. And if you decide to shoot a lot more frames, you get even more, we call it data. It ends up being a picture. You see more of that coming down. So in Bill Beers and all the other astrophotographers' absence, of course, Paul, you're there. So, and those of you that I don't see that do astrophotography, that's my report. Get out and enjoy the night sky. Take a look at it if you can. And if not, make sure you are in focus before you start your shots. And if you do not, you will waste a whole night with nothing but donuts, blurry images, and do take your darks, your flats, and maybe your bias files. I'm finding out that if I were to do this, some of my classic attempts would be a whole lot better. So that's it. Back to you, Diane.
All right, Adrian. Let's have some observing reports, preferably from the visual gang. Okay, David's hand is up. Dr. Levy, what have you got?
Well, hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes.
In the last couple of weeks since I last saw you, I saw two new comets. One of them is Comet de Trois Neumann Delport. David Rossiter and I were at our very dark site where it's pretty much Bortle 1, I guess. I don't really understand the Bortle scale, but let's say it was Bortle 1. And we were able to see it just as a in the sky, except that both David and I saw the in the sky at the same place and the same time. The other comet was just a couple of nights ago, and it was from my own observatory, which has a Bortle scale of 3.14159. And
Hi, that's
on
awesome.
that Bortle
Hi. Yeah.
3.14159, I am able to report that I saw Comet Atlas, Comet 2019 L3. And that was easy to see. That was just a piece of cake. The problem is its location. And I did not have encoders. So I had to get an atlas and go all the way into links, which links should be illegal. I mean, Congress should pass a law against links. But anyway, I had to go all the way through its fourth magnitude stars and fifth and sixth and 18th and a million to finally find the position. But once it was there, the comet was really bright. Well, I have the floor and the ceiling. I have my poem for this meeting. I don't know what's going to happen when we get back to in-person meetings, but I hope somehow a way can be found that I can still keep on doing this. I'm going to do a little quote from the Old Testament tonight. I know I don't usually quote from the Bible often, but sometimes there's an exception. It's the first few lines of Psalm 19 with one line that I've added. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night revealeth knowledge, so long as the sky is clear. Thank you, and back to you.
Thank you.
I'll ask the Catholic Church to add that line into the Bible officially. I think it should be there.
Okay, that's a good idea, I think, Adrian.
We got links to the Vatican right here, gang. Vatican Observatory specifically. All right.
Maybe we could get Pope Francis to address the club one night. Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, that would be I don't know if he does Zoom meetings. WebEx.
I think he does actually.
Wow.
Bob could work on brother Guy to work on that. I'm sure that would be an interesting conversation. For those of you who may be atheists in the group, there would be an interesting sharing of ideas if we had the Pope on. That I would love to sit in and see how that turned out, long as it doesn't get too violent.
I
We're
think
here-
our 501c3 status kind of demands we stick to astronomy.
Oh, yeah. Well, we
Vatican
need a
Vatican
moderator or two.
Vatican Observatory chairperson, yes. Pontifex Maximus, not so much.
Yikes. So I have a
Yeah.
quick observing report.
Awesome. Let's
I
have
don't
it, Bob.
know. I don't know how many of you can remember the first time you saw the moon or stars as a child. I can tell you the exact date and time my granddaughter saw the moon and the stars for the first time. That would have been yesterday at 6 a.m. We took her out and I showed her the crescent moon and Orion and Sirius, and she was looking up at the moon and pointed at it and did her soft little ooh. So I know she was seeing it, and I came in and cried. It made me so happy.
That's awesome, Bob. It was my grandfather taking me out in our driveway that got me started on the long road to here. So good job. Other observing reports. We've had planets, we've had meteors, we've had Ken, is your hand up? Oh, you were just scratching? Okay. Anybody see the Northern Lights? Northern Lights were a bit overhyped this last weekend. Anybody see them?
Yes.
Oh, really? You're well to the south of us. You're on mute, I think.
Can't hear him.
Yeah, David, you forgot to take your mute button off. You got to click it.
Okay. Is this
Now we
any
can hear you.
better? Okay.
Much better.
Anyway, while we're reporting a weak aurora, I actually went out, and that was the night I saw Comet Atlas. Looking towards the northeast, I can occasionally see reddish glow near the horizon. It came and went. It wasn't much, but I would say it's a suspected aurora that night. And so I'm glad you asked, Diane, because I really wanted to mention that.
All right. Anybody else? Ken. Oh, are you adjusting your headphones again? Your hand keeps going up. I think you're trying to talk. All right. No other observing reports, really? We've had some decent weather.
I drove all the way to the Mackinac Bridge and saw the Dipper over the Mackinac Bridge, and saw there's a park, and the winter hexagon rose and was actually pretty bright over that park.
Yeah.
It's Alexander Park or whatever.
I got my full look at the winter hexagon, my first full look of the season, at our dark sky place in Alcona County. And I'll tell you, Sirius, that knocks my socks off every year.
Very bright. Yeah, I'd have to say my best observation of everything was in Kenton, Oklahoma.
Well, yeah.
It got dark. It got dark enough, and to the point where I pulled over on the highway, tried to get as far away from far off of the shoulder, and took a couple of those shots that you saw with the trees in them. Those were from two days ago. And I thought that, that was as clear as I'd seen Orion in Michigan. I'd have to go to the UP, which I guess I was there and ended up turning around because I had to do stuff for Halloween the following day. So I punted on that idea. But yeah, and it looked really clear. And so I tried to take my image of it, and it was still a little less than what I was able to get with the same number of seconds and over there in Canton. But still a delight to see it. I actually saw a bright meteor shoot through Orion. You could see it disintegrate. Well, it actually exploded. Wasn't big enough to cause a huge boom, but it was a very bright meteor. It was quite a sight, and caught just a glimpse of it because I was trying to drive south on 75. You can't observe and drive at the same time, but I happened to just glimpse over and I saw it as it came down and said that would have been really good to photograph, but I also don't want to roll my truck, so I opted to keep driving.
Very good. All right, well, let's switch gears here. It's 8:15, and it is time for election. Oh, Paul Geltz, you raised your hand. Let's hear from you.
Well, I'm not sure you have time. I just had an
Let's hear-
astrophoto to share.
Yeah, no, let's hear it.
All right,
If
hang on. Let
elections
me.
aren't contested, they go pretty fast.
All right, let me share my desktop here. Let's see here. Okay, can you hear me? Okay.
Oh yeah, and we can see the
Okay.
picture. Nice. North
Yeah.
American Nebula.
Well, this didn't start out. This is a 4-panel
Ooh.
mosaic, but it didn't start out as such, so it's not really framed the way I would have framed it if I started from scratch. But this is 4 panels. It's about 1.7 hours per panel through a hydrogen alpha filter from my Bortle 7+ driveway.
Wow.
And the scope was an Astrotech 115, which is an f7 805 millimeter scope. And I believe that's 17 exposures per panel. And then the whole thing was done, composed, and mosaicked in PixInsight.
Wow.
Yeah, I was rather pleased with it when I got done with it. I was quite surprised it was that prominent and that clean.
Very nice,
And
Paul. What camera are you using?
that's the ASI 017.
017 or 71?
I'm sorry, I keep calling it the 017. Yes, it's the 071.
Very nice.
Yeah, this is the only thing I've had a chance to image this fall. The weather's been completely awful. As a matter of fact, I almost didn't get this. I was missing one panel and finally got a clear night, but it hasn't been clear since.
What's the mount?
The mount is a Los Mandy GM 811.
Okay,
and
excellent.
I'm guiding with a guide scope.
Excellent.
So that's what I've got.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing that.
There we go. Bang.
All right. Now we will pass things over to Ken Burton, who is doing his traditional job of running our officer elections. So Ken's got his presentation all queued up, and I will yield the floor to him as soon as he takes off mute.
Okay, I'm going to share the screen now, see if it works it. Let's see, hold on a second. Okay, what is it doing? Okay, let's see if we can get this shared. Open shift precedences. Okay, let's see if this works. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Not yet, no.
No.
Not yet.
Damn. Sometimes this thing gets me crazy. Okay, hold on. Oh, it's downloading the thing. Hold on. I don't know what it's doing here. That's what I need. Hold on. Give me a second.
Yep,
Anything happening?
not yet.
Okay, we're
Yep.
working on it. Okay.
It's like cloudy skies, they won't part.
Ha.
Okay. Now let's see if it works. Come on. This computer just is not working with me. How do you like that?
Well, is there any way you could do it without the visuals?
Yeah,
the
I guess we
visuals
could
are
do it.
fun.
All right,
but
and I
if
know, but this should be working, and it's not, and I'm not understanding why it's not working. Hold on, give me another second here.
Yep. Unless there's some challengers coming out of the woodwork, which would be actually quite fun. We should have plenty of time.
If Ken is just going to show,
Oh, all right,
responsive-
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it verbally. That's all.
wait,
Okay.
if your visuals are mostly just sections of the bylaws that show the officer responsibility, somebody else could share that on their screen.
Yeah, but I can read through it. We can do it without that. It's okay.
We'll be all right. Let's
Okay, here we
roll.
go. All right, Article 5 is the officers. The Section 5.01 titles and qualifications of officers. The principal officers of the corporation shall be the president, first and second vice president, secretary, treasurer, outreach director, and publications director. However, the board may from time to time appoint such additional officers as is deemed appropriate. Qualifications for officer: they must be at least 18 years of age, must have been a member in good standing for 1 year, must maintain his or her membership in good standing during the term of office. In Section 5.02, election and term of office, a nomination committee consisting of 1 to 3 members who are not seeking nomination shall be named by the board of directors at its meetings preceding the annual meeting and election. The committee shall nominate persons who are willing to duly execute at least one office defined in Article 5. The officers shall be elected annually by acclaim or by secret ballot only for contested positions at the annual meeting of the membership. Each other officer shall hold office until his or her successor shall have been elected and installed on January 1st of the following year, or until the officer becomes incapacitated, resigns, or is removed. So this is the Warren Astronomical Society election for 2022. For president, Section 5.03, the president shall preside at all the meetings of the board of directors as chairperson of the board of corporation, and shall have such other powers and duties as may be assigned to him or her by the board, provided they are not inconsistent with these bylaws. The president shall appoint all committee chairpersons. The president shall also keep the corporation's annual report with the state's corporate division. Now, right now for president, the slated is Diane Hall. At this point, I need a move and a second to accept that. First of all, Diane, do you accept that nomination?
I reluctantly accept the duty of an unprecedented third term.
Okay, good enough. All right. Are there any other nominations for the position of president of the Warren Astronomical Society? That being said, since there are no other nominations, I accept the movement for the white ballot nomination, a white ballot election of Diane Hall. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Unmute, please. Unmute.
Aye.
Are there anyone opposed to this election? Therefore, Diane, congratulations. You are now the president for 2022 and 2023, actually. I guess it's a 2-year nomination. Is that correct?
No,
Yes.
thankfully.
Okay. Okay.
One more year.
I got it. Okay. Here we go. The next position is for first vice president. Section 5.04, the first vice president. The first vice president, in absence or inability of the president to serve, shall perform all the duties of the president. The first vice president, as program chair, shall A, solicit meeting presentations and guest speakers. B, planning and maintaining the presidential schedule. C, planning special presentations. D, communicate and coordinating with the meeting venues. In addition, the first vice president shall be a member of all committees that are appointed by the president. The attendance of the first vice president at all committee meetings shall not be mandatory. At this point in time, we have on our slate Bob Tremblay, if you wish, Robert Tremblay, as the first vice president program director. I need a motion to accept Bob for this position, number one. Just say so moved, somebody.
So moved.
Okay. And Bob, do you accept this position?
I
By
do.
ballot.
Crazy
Okay.
guys don't want to get rid of me.
Are there any additional nominations for the position of first vice president? Speak now, please. Since there are no responses to that, I accept the motion to accept Bob Tremblay as our new first vice president for this next year as program director. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 All right.
Good. Okay, then therefore he is elected by white ballot again. Congratulations, Bob. Good luck.
Thank you, everyone. I still think you're crazy.
Go to your room.
Never stopped us before.
I'm in my room.
I know, I get it. Okay, for second vice president or our observatory director, section 5.05, the second vice president, in absence or inability of the president or first vice president to serve, shall perform all the duties of the president. The second vice president, as observatory chair, shall A, supervise and maintain our observatory, all observatory buildings and equipment. B, plan observatory events. And C, communicate and coordinate with the organizations that host our observatory buildings. Second vice president shall be a member of all committees that are appointed by the president. The attendance of the second vice president at all committee meetings shall not be mandatory. At this point in time, on the slate, we have our current second vice president, Riyad Mahdi. Are there any other nominations? Riyad, would you accept that position?
Yes, I do accept the position for the third term.
Very good. Since there are no other nominations, I need a motion by white ballot to accept Riyad Mahdi as our second vice president. Need a so moved, please.
I move.
And a
Seconded.
Good. Okay, therefore, at this point in time, congratulations, Riyad. You are now our second vice president. Once again, good luck with
Thank
that position. Now we move to this next position. This is for secretary. Section 5.06, the secretary. The secretary shall be custodian of all the original records and documents of the corporation. B, keep the minutes of all meetings of the board of directors and of the executive committee. C, notified all members of meetings. D, perform all other duties that are incident to the office of secretary or that may be assigned by the board or the chairperson and that are not inconsistent with these bylaws. At this point in time, we have one slated for this position for secretary, Mark Kedzier. Are there any other nominations for, by the way, Mark, would you accept this position should you get it?
Yes, I will accept for the second term.
Very good. Are there any other nominations for the position of secretary? That being said, since there are no other nominations for secretary, I solicit a motion to accept Mark Kezier by white ballot as the secretary of the Warren Astronomical Society.
So
I make
moved.
the motion,
And I need a second.
although
Second.
All
I
in
would
favor?
call it multicultural ballot.
I get it. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Congratulations, Mark. You are now the secretary for
Thank you.
another
Thank
for
you.
another year. Good luck. Next position. Treasurer. Section 5.07, the treasurer. The treasurer shall A, keep a current list of the membership and their addresses. B, collect all dues and receive other monies as may come to the corporation. C, be accountable for the receipt and disbursement of funds or property on behalf of the corporation. D, regularly enter and cause to be entered in the books of the corporation a complete account of all funds or property received by him for the account of the corporation. E, render a written account of all corporations' accounts to the directors at each regular meeting of the board. F, exhibit the account books of the corporation and all securities, vouchers, papers, documents of the corporation in his or her custody to any director or designee of a director upon reasonable request. G, file all tax and other financial reports required of the corporation. And H, perform all of the
Yeah, I'll
duties.
be here for like an hour.
It will be okay. It's the only one that goes this bad. So
that?
H, perform all other duties that are incident to the office of treasurer or that may be assigned by the board of or the chairperson and are not inconsistent with these bylaws. I, as a matter of policy, the
open?
signature of the treasurer or the president shall be required on all checks. The treasurer shall carry a maximum amount of petty cash to be determined by the board of directors. And J, last, authorize payment of all bills with board oversight. All expenditures over $100 must be approved by the board. Sorry about the length of that, but that's how it works. All right. Adrian, do you accept this nomination?
I do.
Okay.
I
Are there,
think right.
are there any other nominations for the position of treasurer? And with that list, I can't imagine there would be, but go ahead.
Yeah, if you want it, I'm
Okay.
perfectly fine with that.
If there are no other nominations, I solicit a motion to accept Adrian Bradley by white ballot as the new treasurer.
Motion.
And second, please.
Here,
Good. All in favor by having Adrian Bradley as our treasurer once again, please indicate by saying aye.
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 By unanimous decision. Of course, that's what a white ballot is anyway. But
I figured as much.
yeah, but congratulations, Adrian, and good luck over the next year with that ominous position.
Not a problem.
Okay, moving along. For outreach, the outreach director shall A, plan major public events, B, solicit volunteers for said events, C, communicate with park systems, educational groups, and other astronomy clubs to satisfy this corporation purpose as cited in section 2.01A. I will not read that. For outreach, we have on our slate Kevin McLaughlin. Kevin, do you accept this nomination?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other nominations at this point in time for the position of outreach? You have a task following this. Your predecessor, by the way. Okay. All in favor of the
Made the motion.
the motion to accept Kevin as our new outreach director. Say
So
indicate
moved.
by say aye, and all in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Kevin, congratulations. You are now the outreach director as of January 1.
Thank you.
Our last position is publications. Are there any by slate? Dale Teamy is our nominee for publications. The publications director shall A, edit and publish a monthly newsletter and other publications, and B, write and solicit articles for said publications. Dale Teamy is slated. Dale, do you accept that nomination?
Let me think about that. Okay.
Okay. Well, you're going to have quite a problem following the last guy, which was you.
Yeah,
You're
for
gonna have-
sure.
Okay. Anyway, are there any other nominations for publications? Since there are no other nominations by white ballot, I have the motion to accept Dale as our new publications director. All in favor, say aye.
So
Aye.
moved.
Hi.
And now all
Say
in
aye.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay.
Just
Congratulations. Congratulations, Dale. You are our publications director for one more time, at
Thank you.
least. And if we could twist these rules, we'd keep you there forever. All right. Anyway, that closes the election. We do not have any bylaw changes this year, and in the words of our illustrious president, thank God, is what she said. I love that. Okay. This is the Warren Astronomical Society election for the year of 2022. And I have a motion now to close the nominations for that, for the election.
Here.
And all in favor, say aye.
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 Hi.
Therefore, we are done with the nominations for that. Are there any other questions about it? And next year, I promise you that I will have this thing prepared to do it. It's a new computer, and that's what did it. Thanks very much for your time, and go get them, everybody.
Thank you,
All
Ken.
right. Thank you, Ken, for presiding over that. And thank you for entrusting this August Society to me for, as I said, an unprecedented third term in a row. At this point, I will have been your president for 5 out of the last 7 years, which is a little bit scary. I feel like FDR, and we all know how that turned out. And on that happy note, it's break time. Everybody come back at 9 o'clock for the feature presentation. In the meantime, take a bio break, grab some snacks, get a drink, chill, show your pictures, enjoy, and we'll see y'all at the top of the hour. Thanks, everybody. Welcome aboard, Kevin. And
Thank you
thank
all.
you, Dr. Dale, for the fabulous work that you've done as our term limited first VP.
Yes.
Not coming in. Got nothing. Not coming in.
Ken,
Yeah.
you know, there is a workaround to that 3-year rule. I spent several years just as editor and let somebody else play publisher.
Yeah, I know. I know
Well,
that.
how
I,
would
I
you do
can't I,
that?
I can't imagine anybody better at the job. So I'm just tickled that you're doing it.
I
It's
just
great.
keep plugging away at it, you know.
Yeah, it's that, but what you need to be is you need to be recognized by somebody. You know what I mean?
Well, this year I got it.
No shit.
Yeah, I think the Astronomical League did a pretty good job of that.
Yeah,
They did. That's the biggest award I got up there.
well, you're the man. That's all. Did you ever get? You're not a. Have you ever had a? Do you have a John Searles Award yet?
Oh yeah.
You do have one.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, if you got a John Searles Award, you kind of did it all. You kind of did it all.
I got a Blaine McCullough one too.
Oh, isn't that great? Oh, you're the best. Eating information, and there the damn thing is. God bless America. Oh my
Yeah, what
goodness
was not
gracious.
working for you?
I don't know why it's not. It has been working for me for a long time, and then I changed systems of some sort, and it
Mm.
just won't do what it wanted to do. I usually do it down in my office,
Oh,
and when I did it in my office, I had no issues. So I took it up to my room, figured I'd be a little bit more comfortable, and that's what I get. But next time when we have anything like this, I'll be ready. It's just that like in my room downstairs, I mean, my office, I've got a monitor also that kind of helps me out a little bit.
yeah.
But this one was this was a nightmare today. I just couldn't figure it out. But you know, you can run through it. You can do all that stuff, you know, eventually. it works out. But that's what I've been looking for over here. I just found what I needed. And there you go. Okay. There it is. I'll bet you this is going to work now. Let me just see. Join the meeting. Join. Guess you want to put the meeting number is what they want here. Let's try that. Hold on a second. Let me see this. Let's put that in here and see what happens. Join. Connecting. How do you like that? Other the meeting is in progress. I don't care whether it's in progress. Join. What a strange thing. I don't understand why it's doing that. Isn't that something? It just won't do what I want it to do. Sign in. Next. Connecting. Next. Welcome to it. And then it keeps asking me for a password. How about that? And it just won't send it to me. Isn't that a son of a gun? And it's supposed to tell me a confirmation code, and it says it's sending it to my email, and my email isn't getting anything. Isn't that something? Just not show.
I've run into
Just-
that where it's sending confirmation codes and it doesn't show up in the mail for. I've had it show up the next day.
Really? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Well, it's
It
obviously
happens.
not.
Yeah.
So that's not something I should be worried about, is that it's going to happen to me anyway.
Mm.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to join the meeting a second time?
Well, I want to go in with the I've got a WebEx icon here, and what I did is I went through Safari, and it opened up a different one, and that was what. And when I had this other one working, it worked just fine. It did what it was supposed to do, but this one it's just not doing it, and I can't figure out what the hell's going on here. It just won't do what I want it to do, and you know, that's okay. I've got something to work on now, I guess. Figuring out what the hell went on here. Yeah, it just won't show up. It just won't show up. Okay. Well. Oh, wait a minute. Nope. Nope. It just gave me in. Nope. Didn't
False
do that.
alarm, huh?
Yeah, false alarm. Looked like something popped, but it didn't. Okay, well, next time I'm going to do it on the other computer. That's all. However, when are we supposed to start up again? At 9?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yep,
I wasn't-
it is 9. We're supposed to start up at 9.
Okay.
So
Oh,
we
we
got
got a long
8
time to go.
minutes.
Yeah, we got another 8 minutes.
Yep.
I'm gonna go to the other computer, see if I can get it to do it. I'm gonna leave the meeting for now. All right, I'll be back.
Bye, Ken.
Hey, Jim, how you doing?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, I've been struggling to get my audio on.
It's working now.
Good, cool. I got here late. Is Bob's presentation started?
Not yet. You got 6 minutes.
Ah, thank you, sir. Go up and get my coffee.
Bob, have you been getting a lot of solar pictures lately?
Not a whole lot of nighttime stuff. I've done some, although I have been doing tons of visual astronomy and solar astronomy.
I was saying the solar
Really
pictures.
into the solar stuff this summer.
Yeah, I'm thinking getting a lot of targets right now.
Pardon?
I think again a lot of targets on the sun right now.
Oh yeah, it's getting really active.
Yeah.
Now, if it just quit raining so much, it's supposed to be nice, better all the rest of this week, I guess. But this has been the wettest summer since I moved here in 2004.
Ours has been pretty soggy too. So, yeah.
I think about the only place that it's not soggy was middle of the state where we went, or middle of the states. Oklahoma was pretty dry when we were there. Okie-Tex, beginning of October. We got 0 rain our entire time there and lots of dust. I was sneezing most of the time when I wasn't in amazement and wonderment of the sky. I was taking allergy medication to
Wow.
keep from having a miserable time.
Mhm.
All my family that lives in California is very jealous of us. I take pictures of my lawn and said, I haven't had to water my lawn all summer and it's nice and lush and green.
Yeah, and we don't have to worry about
That's
where our
the-
drinking water is coming from either. Straight out of the lakes. All right, everybody, filter back if you can. Got about 3 minutes left in snack break.
Bob, have you had your accordion out recently?
The last time I played any gig was on an outdoors block party about a month ago. All the gigs I normally do all came to a stop.
Yeah.
I'm back.
All right, gang, we've reached the bottom of the hour, or top of the hour, so I will hand things over to this year's first Vice President, Dr. Dale Parton, to introduce tonight's featured speaker. Take it away, Dale.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Well, our speaker tonight is Bob Berta. If I read to you everything I know about it that he's accomplished, he wouldn't have time to give his talk. so I'll be abbreviated. He has been a member of the Warren Club since 2004. Offices, including president. He's also a member of the Oakland Astronomy Club, the Seven Ponds Club, and the San Francisco Amateur Astronomers out in California. Wow. He does get around. He retired from an engineering job in California back in 2004 and came east to Michigan. He plays various musical instruments and he's into cycling and kayaking. Really involved with scouting programs, including the big D-Bar, is it D-Bar A, I think?
Yeah, D-Bar A,
Where
the
he,
Metamora Dryden area.
yeah, where he put together a nice large observatory for the scouts. Somewhere along the way, he raised 5 kids. And his presentation tonight is on solar astronomy. Bob, it's all yours. Oh, and Bob, before you say something, I forgot to say earlier, I'm always looking for people to give presentations. So we're booked up halfway through March of next year and a scattering of bookings after that. So you don't have to have something ready now, but if you think you might have something ready down the road, please let me know and we'll get you on the schedule. Okay?
Okay.
Sorry, Bob, go ahead.
Okay, and if I could switch over to sharing my screen here. First of all, I want to try this one. Okay. And can you see that one?
Yes.
Okay, this is not a solar picture. Earlier, we were talking about the heart and soul nebulas. I don't call them the heart and soul. This is the Ghoul Nebula, which is appropriate for, actually it's one day late for Halloween. If you look here, there's the ears, there's the other ear, there's the 2 eyes, and there's the scowl on it. So that's the Ghoul. I thought it was appropriate for this time of year.
Nice.
Okay, let me switch over here. Okay, today we're going to talk about solar astronomy, both from how to get into it, how to view it safely, and also how to photograph it if you're into that type of thing. So let's start over here. Okay. Okay, everybody see the slide there, solar astronomy slide?
Nope,
Not
still
yet.
looking at the ghoul.
Okay. Oh, you should look at the Ghoul.
Yeah, now I'm calling it the Ghoul. Heart and the
Okay.
Ghoul.
Yeah, can you see the this photo yet? It should be.
No, we can only see we could see your mouse moving.
Still the
Well,
Soul, Bob.
Pardon?
Still the Soul Nebula.
Okay, how do I get out of there? Maybe I have to go, maybe I have to go back.
Close the window.
Yeah, close that window, the other one maybe. There. Close that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now start your sharing again.
I am start sharing again.
Start your sharing again and then go to your
Okay,
presentation program.
there. Okay, is that it?
Now we see.
Observing the sun
Yep.
safely.
Okay,
That's, we're there.
good. Okay. Well, when I was working, besides being a electrical engineer and a manager later on, I was also a safety engineer. So this is very important for solar astronomy, that you really have to emphasize safety because there's major safety concerns. The first one is obviously protecting your eyes, but also those of others. Because especially when you're doing outreach, you definitely don't want to get in a situation of causing some harm to the people you're participating with. And the rule is never look at the sun through a telescope, binoculars, or even naked eye unless you have approved filtration. And I'm talking about approved filtration, things like looking through multiple layers of film, et cetera, do not do that. Use appropriate safety filtration. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Also, this is very important when you're observing and doing presentations to the public and kids. Always talk about what I just mentioned before, never observing the sun through binoculars or a telescope. And you want to repeat this over and over again, because the worst thing you can have is some child who's at one of our open houses go home and say, hey, I'm going to look at the sun through my dad's binoculars or telescope. And that would be a ruin that child's life. And it could also ruin your life when they find out that you might have told them to do that. So don't do that. Also, don't leave equipment unattended. This is very important. We all are very careful using our regular gear for nighttime observing, but for solar, this is even more important. Never leave it unattended. Also, you want to inspect for equipment damage. Be very careful. Inspect before using every time. Look for pinholes and filters. Make sure it's assembled correctly and all filters are safely attached, aren't going to come loose. And of course, when you're out in the hot sun, you have to worry about, don't get sunburned, heat stroke, make sure yourself is, hydrated. And the good news is for solar astronomy, you don't have to worry about getting mosquito bites. So that's good. Yeah. See why it's not switching over. I have to see if I can get out of here. I don't know why it's not switching over. Yeah. Let me see if I can go back here. I have to try something here. I don't know why it's doing this.
Your cursor's on the wrong screen, Bob, I think.
No, it is on the right screen, but it's not. I should be able to. Oh, okay, there we go. Okay. The basic equipment you can use is solar glasses. And those of you who observed the eclipse remember seeing these appear on the top, the little folding cheap safety glasses that you use to observe the sun. These are specifically made for that purpose. So don't try to manufacture your own with questionable materials. Also, another one which I liked was this one down below, a very simple one that Celestron had. It was a 2X binocular, real cheaply made out of cardboard. You squeeze the sides of it down here and on the other side to focus it. And that little flap on the top created a shadow across the top of it so you wouldn't get flare or glare. From there, you move into solar film filters or glass filters. The one I particularly like is Bader, which is a German company. They make a product called Astro Solar Film. It's a very thin, double-coated material, which is specified specifically for observing the sun. It's made to a very high standard and is the one type of a filter that you can put in front of a telescope or binoculars, which is relatively cheap, and it's guaranteed to very minimal impact on the quality of the viewing or sharpness and the contrast to a telescope. Roland Christen from Astrophysics told me that's the only product he recommends of the films or glass filters that don't reduce the quality of the image through your telescope. You can buy that material in sheets, which I do, and they go anywhere from about an 8-inch by 10-inch sheet on up to a large sheet, which is about 4 times that size. And you can get it through Astrophysics sells it, Kendrick sells it, and several other companies. The neat part is when you buy the sheets, you can make your own cells. I made this one here out of cardboard to fit a 11-inch telescope. Over here on the left, there's a small one that clips on to a 50 millimeter finder telescope. Over on the right here is the same one as on the left, but this one on the right has a 2-inch aperture made in there to step down or reduce the aperture looking through that 11-inch telescope. These, I'm not sure what the current price is, but I believe you can get around $30 or $40 for the 8 by 10 inch size, on up to probably around maybe $70 for the larger size. When I was living in San Francisco, I used to make a whole bunch of these and sell them to members of the Astronomy Club. I would custom make these filters, and I have shown how to do that at past WAS meetings. So if somebody wants to go over that again, I can make that as a short presentation at a future meeting. So that's something you might want to keep on your back burner, Dale. These are very easy to make. The view through those is going to show you the flares, a little bit on the edge, but very little of it. Mostly, they're only going to show you the sunspots, the umbra, the area around it, and also a little bit of surface granulation, which is the convection cells, and a little bit of edge darkening. To go beyond that, you need to have a specifically filter designed for things like the chromosphere, the prominences, etc. And I'll explain a little bit more about that in the next slide. There are different types of telescopes you can use. The first one on my left and the right here is what is called a Herschel solar wedge. And these are probably the ultimate as far as a white light filter. These will give a better image even than the Beta solar film. What these have, instead of a diagonal mirror or prism, they have a ceramic, I guess, filter, you might say, that blocks out a huge amount of the light going through this. So even though you have your telescope aimed at the sun, it does not allow light through the diagonal into your eye. These can only be used on a refractor, and only up, this particular one only goes up to an 8-inch refractor. So someday we'll have to put that on our big refractor, give it a try. I've got a 6-inch refractor, and this is an 80 millimeter refractor, and the view to that is spectacular. You can also adapt this to a various cameras. You can buy adapters for this from Beta, which allow you to hook your Nikon or Canon camera. You can get digital cameras hooked up to it, etc. So it's a very efficient system. These are roughly, I think, anywhere from about $350 up to around $500, depending on the brand. Lunt, Beta, and a couple other companies make these. I think Celestron also does. These are a big improvement over the prior Herschel wedges. The old original ones used to dump the extra heat and light out of that diagonal down. So if you got too close and stood in the wrong place, it could get very hot. These new ones, through those ceramic filters, do not have any problem with the heat going out and possibly hurting anybody. Okay, beyond that, you go into the H-alpha type of filters. There's 3 types here, but these aren't the only ones. The one on the right, I'll cover first, the Lunt. A Lunt is an H-alpha filter which covers a very narrow spectrum of light. And actually, you don't have to use an apochromatic refractor, since you're only passing a very narrow spectrum. So the Lunt telescope and the basic version of the Coronados just use an achromat, which it works fine, gives you a very good image. The Lunt has an internal filter system, and it has a tuner, this knob on the side here. I don't know if you can see that with my pointer. That knob rotates to adjust pressure, to change the filter, to slightly change the light wave that you're seeing, so you can put more emphasis on either the prominences coming out or on the detail on the surface, the chromosphere. The one on the left is a Coronado, and this one uses a standard telescope here. This is my 80 millimeter refractor, but it has a H-alpha filter up here, is what they call an etalon, and this is half the filter system in this telescope. The other half is one in the back here, which is in between the diagonal, which is a regular diagonal in this case, and this telescope, which is an additional filter. That's called a blocking filter. And you have to have both in place for this to work, as you do on the Lunt. And In this case, there's a little, you can't see it in this picture, but on the other side, there's a little knurled wheel you turn to adjust the range that you've got to emphasize more for the chromosphere or the prominence detail. Both are fine. They both work well. This is an older one. I had this one first. This one actually I was donated to me through the Boy Scouts. So this is pretty much the current model of this, and they both work equally well. And they are both, in this case, they're both 60 millimeter refractors. You don't need a giant aperture for these. Generally, once you get up to 80 or 90 millimeter, that's about the maximum. Once you get beyond that, the seeing is a major problem, and you're gonna have a problem getting much of an improved view. So most people tend to stay with anywhere from, say, 40 millimeter to maybe an 80 or 90 millimeter aperture. And like all things in astronomy, as you get bigger apertures, guess what? The price goes up. So one like these two would probably go, well, not this telescope, but the filter system for that, or this lunch will run you probably about $1,400. I think that's around the current price for that. When you go the larger ones, they rapidly increase, where you're talking about maybe $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000. So another good reason to stay with the small ones. This is a third style, and this is made by Daystar, another company. It's a very old company. This particular one is designed to fit into existing refractors or telescopes. This end plugs into your diagonal. So you take out this eyepiece in this case and plug it in here. This end, you would have an eyepiece here. Generally, they recommend about a 26 to 32 millimeter, 40 millimeter eyepiece. Any more than that, it's not going to work as well. Where these two telescopes used either a tilt tuner or a pressure tuner, the Daystars have actually electronically or heated element. So this little knob here rotates a variable capacitance device, which varies about plus or minus 5 angstrom up and down. This actually works very well also, but it's not necessarily superior to either one. This particular one, I have this as a chromosphere model, which is normally you'd pay a lot more money to get a chromosphere on these two, because you would have to get what they call a double stack, two filters in line for these two. This one, you can get it either designed for prominences or for the chromosphere. And this one I have for chromosphere. And actually, the main problem with this one is a lot harder to use, to set up and use that than the other two. So if you're buying one to start with, of all three of these, probably one of these two would be the first one to go for. Okay. As far as the sun itself, there's an 11-year solar cycle sometimes. The reason I say sometimes, that varies over the years. There was a period between 1645 and 1715 called the Maunder Minimum, when there were no sunspots at all. And the result of that, actually, it affected the weather on the Earth. It created a mini ice age where ice glaciers started moving down the continent, down in as far as the upper parts of Italy, if you can believe that. Many cultures actually are devastated by that, because they weren't able to farm. The land got very cold and forbidding, a lot of snow, ice. So there are times when it hasn't been as very good for us. So we do want to pay attention when the sunspot activity is going on. As you can see in this picture here, between 1996 and 2006, you can see that was a perfect 11-year cycle, when it went from basically no sunspots to a lot of activity, sunspots, and then back to normal. Now, I was talking earlier about the prominences, the corona, flares, large eruptive prominences, which are known as coronal mass ejections. This shows you what they all are. This is the sun. That's the core of it down here. This is the photosphere. This is a part, if you use one of the beta astrosolar filters or the white light filter, this is a part you're seeing, all these sunspots down here. When you go into H alpha, or the prominence, or the corona type of filters, this is what you're getting into. if you use the Lunt or the Coronado I showed earlier that are single stacked with a single filter, you're going to see the prominences out here, the details out here on the edges. You're going to see the large prominences coming out, ejecting off the side of the sun, and those are really cool. If you have the chromosphere version of these, you'll start seeing the area below that and all the detail down here. And I'll show some pictures illustrating the differences on these. The Lunt and the Coronado in single stack will show actually both of those, both the Corona and the other, but there's a problem with that. You tend to get better work or better results when you have one specifically aimed at either the chromosphere or seeing the prominences, material ejecting off. A lot of people say, well, what's the difference? Okay, here's a good picture with a layer stripped away. Again, here's what you'd see with a white light filter, like the Bader. You'd see the prominences, excuse me, not the prominences, the sunspots here. And here's the layer you're going to see again with the H alpha filters. You'll see this, and you'll also see the prominences. And here's this lighter color is the plague, or exactly how you pronounce it, plague, I guess I always called it. The difference is on the surface of the sun like this, you'll see, oops, excuse me, I went too far. You'll see the sunspots. Those are actually temperatures. The sunspots are cooler than the this part over here. So when you see the black part, that is a cooler part by probably around 5,000 degrees Kelvin. When you see the white or lighter color here, this is hotter. This is quite a bit hotter than the surface part here. This is probably up, maybe 10,000 degrees or so. As you move away from the sun, like when you have the prominences go out in Spain, it becomes much, much hotter, up in 1,000,000 degrees or so. And it's not clearly understood why that is. There are a lot of scientific experiments going on to determine that, but they still haven't 100% determined what the real reason for that is. This is something I've always enjoyed showing to people. These are pictures I've taken, one at January 5th in 2021. Here's one July 3rd in 2021. And there's a slight difference in the size, you know, from the same telescope, same location. But people say, well, that must mean when the sun is, during the summer, is closer to the Earth, that means it's going to be a lot hotter in the summer, right? And when it's farther away in the winter, it's cooler. Well, no, that's not the reason it gets hotter or cooler on the Earth. It's because the Earth tilts on its axis. During the summer, the northern hemisphere is closer to the sun, and the other end gets cooler. For instance, right now, as we are going into winter, Australia is going into the hot summer. So it's just the opposite of what we're seeing. But it has nothing to do with where the sun is as far as the relationship to where we are versus where it is at different times of the year. Okay, here's a picture I took in August of 2021, and there are sunspots. And you might say, well, I don't see the sunspots. Let's see if we can show some sunspots here. Okay, let's blow it up a little bit. Do it up a little bit here. Now, if you can see it very well, but there, I'll see if I can point out down here. There's a sunspot here, down there, couple. There's one there, one there. Let's scoot it down here. On the edge, you can see some of the lighter areas we talked about, the plague part or plunge. If you go up here, I can scoot over a little bit. There's a couple more sunspots here, the lighter colored area around that. It's an active area. Here's some more sunspots there. So you can say, well, that's not particularly impressive. They're pretty small. Well, they are small, but those are actually in relationship to the Earth are pretty good sized. I would say that this one down here, the larger one down here, is probably not too far off from being the size of the Earth. And these do get much, much larger. If you go over this way, this is a picture taken showing some larger sunspots. The umbra is the black part, the preumbra is the area around it, and then you got the chromosphere around it. And these are very large. There's as the sun gets more active, these sunspots are going to get much, much larger. You see much more going on the sun. Okay, let's go to July 21st, which that picture I showed earlier of the sunspots, this is taken about the same time, I think same day or next day. And again, you can see things that are going on here. The these lighter colored areas are the hotter areas. When you see a darker area, that is a cooler area, active regions. And I'd say the grain on there, it looks like grain or kind of a rough finish. That is not grain. That is the convection cells of the material on the sun boiling to the surface. That's really, really fun to watch that, because you can see things changing on the sun, the convection cells changing, the sunspots. Unlike deep sky astrophotography or viewing, things on the sun do change quite fast. You can actually, within say 15 minutes to an hour, notice distinct differences. Oftentimes you look at a corner here and you'll see nothing. Often a little teeny little blip comes out and say, oh, what's that? You look at it, in the next 15 minutes, you'll see a beautiful prominence come out, then loop back again. This is a close-up of a sunspot. This is the umbra, the penumbra, or penumbra around it. And then you see like little whiskers, like little eyelashes coming out from it. Then this is all distortion in the stuff comes to the surface. It distorts the magnetic fields of all this stuff. So it's distorting the surface of the sun. Okay, this is a picture I took I think it was about the same day as before. And this was a active region. In solar astronomy, when they have a area that has a lot of stuff going on, like this, they call that an active region in AR. So they might be AR 2052, whatever. So they number them. And as you go up on this, let me see if I can blow this up again. Like that. Okay. You can see again, you can see the sunspot here, which is the umbra, the penumbra around it, material being distorted around it, etc. So this is pretty cool. And this is why I really enjoy looking at the sun. It changes and you get some really deep views, not just once a day, but you can look all day long and things keep changing on you. I mentioned earlier that when you get a filter system for those H alpha, you have a choice of looking for one that has more emphasis on the chromosphere, this area in here, or in the prominences. In this case, I'm able to bring out a little bit of detail in both, but this particular setup, which is with the day star, is aimed more at the detail here rather than the prominences here. Now, if I get the chromosphere version, which this is, you're limited. If I get the prominence version of that, which is actually the same price, you would have a lot more detail out here, but you lose the detail in here. So you kind of pick and choose what you want. One thing, it's just like in nighttime seeing of planets, you also have to deal with seeing. And as you go to higher magnifications, real time through these telescopes, you can actually see that. You'll actually see within just seconds the image going in and out as various things interfere with the quality of the seeing. It might be just heat rising off the ground that you're standing on. It could be the jet stream going over. A lot of different things can affect that. So this is something I'll tell you about how to kind of cure that when you get into astrophotography, how to deal with that. Okay, here's one which you can actually take pictures and combine both the prominence and chromosphere detail. You can use a telescope and adjust it, like either the Lunt or the H alpha setup on the Coronado. You take either two images or one image using a 16-bit capture. A camera, as you get into 16-bit capture, has a wider range that it can see, you might say. So if you take a single picture, you can actually process one of them for the prominence detail down here, and another one you can process for the center part. Or you can do two pictures, take one complete picture working on the outside, another picture working on the inside. Whoops, too far. Too far. Go back here. Okay. Okay. What you can do is you can actually take a program like Photoshop and you capture the two images and you overlay them one over the other. You actually take one picture, you center it, and take the other picture and you cut out the say in this case, for that case of the prominences, and you place it over the top of the other picture. So you've actually do like a double exposure, and that's the way you deal with that when you're taking pictures. The advantage of the human eye, you can actually see that with your eye. Your eye has a fantastically much longer range of brightness it can see. So visually through a telescope, you can see a lot more than the camera can catch normally. You can also see, I talked about having a tuner on a H-alpha scope. By tuning it, not only do you get to see more detail on the surface, but you can also pick up these little black lines, and these black lines are called filaments. What they are is actually a prominence, the material that ejects off the side of the sun, but coming directly at you. So as it comes towards you, it's going so quickly that it's actually changing the frequency of the light. Sort of like, you heard about red shift and blue shift, sort of the same thing. So you can actually tune your telescope to bring out those filaments, the little black lines. Okay, and this is, I don't know if Doug is watching tonight, but if Doug's watching, this is something he could be interested in. You can actually do a video doing time-lapse movies, and you can and through those time-lapse movies, you can see actual, over a short amount of time, the activity that's actually going on in the sun. Okay. Here's another one. This is one. And this time I've noticed that you can actually, the human eye kind of gets fooled sometimes. And what happens is if you orient the picture, even though these might have been happening on the side of the sun, if you orient them so they work straight up, then you have this material coming at you because on the edge of a sun, you get what they call edge darkening. It's like a little bit darker, a little bit more grayed out in this area. It actually almost looks like you've got 3D on here. So it makes it look like the sun actually has a curved surface and 3D view. And again, this is done with a time-lapse movie. Like Doug is, I think he's given some talks for the club recently about that. Okay. Now, we know about coronal mass ejection, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second. But before I do, this is a very short movie, just a couple of minutes long. And this is one that was put out by NASA, showing a video of the sun belching material out in a CME, which is a coronal mass ejection, which is when the sun blasts out material out the side of, I shouldn't say the side, out of the sun. Okay, I'm not going to keep showing that because it goes on a while, but the coronal mass ejection, those can be a serious problem. Okay. Okay. Before I get into solar astronomy, I want to talk a little bit about those coronal mass ejections and space weather. The reason we are concerned about those is because if it goes out the side of the sun, it's not too bad. But if it comes at the Earth, it can cause massive problems like power outages. It can cause danger to the astronauts out in space if they're out spacewalking. It can also cause our satellites that are going around the Earth to fail. Luckily, through space weather, we know when we're going to be getting these coronal mass ejections. So if they're going to be coming directly at the Earth, what they try to do is turn the space satellites either off or turn them away so they're not facing the sun to try to keep them getting damaged. On the Earth, power companies can start cutting back the power a little bit, trying to eliminate the problem of having major outages. I know Dan used to work in the power industry, and that was my career in the power industry. That is a major concern because when you start having major outages caused by these CMEs, what happens is it can chain and moving to the next set of breakers, the next set of transmission system. Before long, you start daisy chaining and taking out large swaths of transmission towers, and that can be very, very bad. That, if it was bad enough, could put you back quite back into the couple hundred years ago, as far as trying to get back in operation. We talked about having a coronal mass ejection, the danger. There was a big one back called the Carrington event back in the 1800s. Luckily, we weren't affected by it pretty much because we didn't have computers, we didn't have satellites, we didn't have transmission systems, etc. But we did have teletype systems. And the way these work is just like an electrical transformer. If you've ever studied electricity or electronics, the way a transformer works, there's two coils of wire parallel to each other, and one has one voltage going through it, and that impresses a voltage on the other coil, so it changes the voltage. Might change from a 12,000 volt transmission down to the 120, 240 volt that you use at your home. When you have long lengths of power lines up on poles, the CMEs can actually do those lines, energize them, and cause problems. So it can, again, take out the transmission system, etc. And you might say, well, that last one happened back in the 1800s. We don't have to worry about it. There was a big one that happened I think it was about 4 years ago. And luckily, it wasn't aimed at the Earth. It went out the side. But as they studied it, collected all the data, a couple of years later, they realized that between that and another one happened at the same time, it actually exceeded the amount of energy that the Carrington event did. If that had been aimed at the Earth, it could have been, horrible. It could have put us back, 150 years, 200 years as far as getting our infrastructure back in operation again. So those are major concerns. So that kind of put the fire underneath the power industry. They have to start really looking at ways to try to prevent that from happening by having their system better protection. I don't know if they've really done a great job on that. I haven't seen enough emphasis on that to really encourage me yet, but it's still something to be worried about. Anyway, enough of the worries about those type of things. I'm going to move now on to solar astronomy a little bit. As you know, I'm a astrophotographer. I love doing deep sky stuff and everything, but I've moved a little bit into the solar stuff because, one, it opens up more time to image because, as you know, in Michigan, we don't get a whole lot of clear nights to do my astrophotography. Many times the stuff I shoot at night requires not one day, but several days to collect a lot of frames through all the different filters I use and everything. So it might take me, months or even years. I've had a couple of shots that have taken me a couple of years, 3 years to actually accumulate enough parts or frames to actually assemble that. The good thing about solar astronomy, astrophotography, is it can be done when the sun is out. So no worry about light pollution. It can be done during the day, obviously, when we have a lot more sunny days around here than we do clear, long nights. And the other good thing is that solar astrophotography doesn't require long exposures to take your pictures. Okay. There are a couple of things you need to add for solar astronomy. The first one, of course, is a camera. Many of you might think, well, I use a DSLR to take pictures of the sun, of deep sky objects with my telescope. You can use a DSLR, or if you have an old film camera, you could actually use that with the appropriate filters. Those white light filters I showed early on, those will work just fine with a DSLR. But if you want to get into H-alpha filter photography, you need to have those other type of telescopes. The other thing you need to have, if you want to get into H-alpha photography, you need to have a dedicated camera designed for that. The good part is the cameras for that are quite cheap. A DSLR is a semi-expensive camera, but the cameras that are used for nighttime astronomy can be very, very expensive. I've got a couple that are, I don't want to tell you how much they are, but I could have bought a nice car for what I paid for it. This camera is one of the ultimate current solar cameras. Just came out. It's called a Player One Chinese camera. It's called a Neptune. Runs normally it's about $350 net or list price. You can usually get it for around $280. Unfortunately, this camera has gotten so hot with the solar getting active that now you can't buy them. I know I got one, and a friend of mine who is also a solar nut in the Oakland Astronomy Club got one about 2 months ago, and the word got out right away. This is a hell of a camera, good buy and everything else. So people bought them up, the whole supply, so now you can't get them. No Deal was trying to get one. Unfortunately, he missed out. They didn't get them in yet. So the difference on these type of cameras is you don't have to have a cooled camera because the exposures are extremely slow. You need to have a mono camera, not a color camera, because all the activity on H-alpha is in black and white, not in color. And this particular camera has one additional feature, and that is, you can't see it in the picture here, but the nose piece that goes into your telescope here actually has a tilt arrangement, so you can slightly tilt that. In solar astronomy, with some setups, you actually get what they call Newton rings. Looks like little water driplets that kind of go out, little rings from it. And to get rid of that, you slightly tilt the focus in relation to the chip. So this has that feature. So these are a great camera for that. The other thing you want is a camera with a very high resolution chip. They do that via this is a 2.3 or 2.2 micron chip pixel size, which is very, very high resolution. The chip size is about a 1/2 inch, so it's not a giant chip, but it works very, very well. The side advantage of this camera is that it can also be used as a auto guider for the nighttime stuff. So I think I'm going to start using this as my guide camera too. It's a pretty neat camera. The other problem you have for nighttime photography, not nighttime, in daytime photography is if you start taking pictures, you got to have a way to use your laptop outdoors. And as you've ever tried to use your laptop outdoors, you can't use it because the sun washes it out. The old way of dealing with this is to get a cardboard box and put a bunch of black material around it and put your laptop inside. Works pretty good. Not the neatest, cleanest setup and everything, but it does work. I found this on Amazon. I think its list price is about $75. It's called I think it's lap tent or something like that. What it is, it's a spring-loaded tent. As you open it up, just take elastic around the back off, and it pops into the shape here, and a laptop goes inside of it. It's got little doors on the side that unzip, so you can go back. Yeah, little doors open, so you can run your wires and cables inside. The good part about this particular one is that it has black on the inside and silver on the outside. Because if you're going outdoors in the hot sun, you definitely don't want to have black on the outside. You're going to get yourself really hot and your laptop's going to get overheated. So don't do that. This particular model is advertised as going up to a 17-inch laptop. Note that's a 17-inch diagonal. Don't try to get a 17-inch wide inside of this. Mine just fits in perfectly. So you might want to make sure yours will fit inside of this. And it's very easy to put back together again. You say, well, how do you ever collapse that thing? You take this corner up here, a little piece of fabric strap. You just bend it, push it down to the bottom. Once you take your laptop out, away the bottom. When you do that, the two sides fold over, and you put one over the top, and then it folds itself into itself. Okay, oops, too far. Okay, the good thing about solar astronomy, I've got a couple of fancy astrophysics mounts that I use for my nighttime, which is wonderful for that, but you don't have to use them. During the day for solar astronomy, you're taking extremely short fractions of a second exposure. All you need is just a simple alt-az, which this is. This is an Ioptron Mini Tower Pro. And all you have to do is just keep, as long as it keeps your sun on the chip, it's doing fine. That's all you need to do. Just take your picture, and then it takes, I do 2,000 pictures. The 2,000 pictures takes anywhere from about 10 seconds, maybe 4 or 5 seconds, up to a little bit longer, depending how large of a frame size you want to crop in on. Normally you do that in 8-bit because you're just doing the surface detail of the chromosphere. So you don't need to have a 16-bit image. So that again makes it very quick. That camera has another advantage in that it has onboard 256 megabyte, they call DDR, which means it has processing of the image on the camera itself. So you have it acting as a buffer to get the image onto your telescope, onto your laptop. So you don't have to have a whole lot of time spent downloading the images from the camera onto your laptop. Does it very quickly. Again, the actual image taking takes maybe 10 seconds to maybe as long as 30 seconds if you got a really large image. The actual downloading time takes longer, but you don't have to worry about that. It might take anywhere from 30 seconds up to maybe a couple of minutes or so, depending how large and how many frames you're shooting. You say, well, why are you shooting 2,000 pictures? Okay, I'll explain that in a second. Okay. First of all, the most difficult part of solar imaging is finding the sun and finding the focus point with your new gear, whatever you're going to have. Through a H-alpha filter or even a white light filter, everything is black through your telescope except when you're looking right at the sun. So generally what you'll do on a telescope is you'll mount what they call a solar finder. This can be a simple device that just has a little pinhole that projects the sun onto a little piece of white material on the back where your solar telescope finder would go. Or it can be simply just a regular finder scope with a piece of the Beta Astro solar film over it. Don't make the mistake of leaving your regular finder scope on your telescope uncovered, because if you do, as you start moving your telescope around and you start looking through your H-alpha filters, there's a good chance the focused image through your finder scope will not only melt the finder crosshairs, it will also, if your hair is near it, set your hair on fire. So don't make that mistake. Generally, what I do is use a solar finder to find the telescope focus point for the sun itself. Once it's found it, then you can switch over to the camera and narrow it on a smaller area. That's one advantage of having a mount that tracks the sun. You can do this without a tracking telescope, because I do have a couple mounts that are just a simple, like a tripod mounted camera mount. You can put the H-alpha scope on it and look through it and find the sun visually is fine, but don't try to use the camera on that. You'll be tearing your hair out trying to find it. The other things you need to have is software. There's two main ones that are used for solar astronomy. The one I prefer is SharpCap. That's freeware, doesn't cost anything. And another software is AutoStacker. That's not misspelled. AutoStacker is a German product. And again, that's freeware that allows you to stack the material. And then lastly, you need to have, I use Photoshop only because I already have Photoshop from my nighttime photography, but that's a very expensive program, and I don't recommend you buy that unless you actually need it. You can get cheaper or free alternative color fiddling programs or apps. So there's plentiful, and I would recommend those for most people. Okay, the mono camera, again, I explained why you need that. The telescope, I recommend using a refractor. It does not have to be a Apple, which is a very expensive refractor. It can be a simple Chinese Apple refractor, not Apple, Achromat rather, Achromat refractor. In fact, I have one of my telescopes I use a lot is a 105 millimeter Achromat that I use, and it works great. The mount, again, you don't need a real fancy mount, but any mount you have that will track the sun for photography will work fine. For visual use, you don't need to even have a tracking mount. Okay, now let's see how you do it. Okay, first of all, you have to focus. And that is actually, you should take a lot of time to do that. Usually I zero in a narrower area of the sun using that Sharp Cap software and zoom in and spend a lot of time getting it focused. There are things you can use to make it a little bit easier for nighttime photography, like auto focusers, etc. But I found, even though I have one of those are actually don't work as well as just using a manual focus knob. Just look to your refractor through Sharp Cap software. You can actually see the view through your telescope in real time. And if you bring in the edge of the sun or a sunspot, it's very easy. It'll be very obvious when you get it sharp. It'll just snap in and out very quickly. Next, once you do that, get all focused, then you want to set up your Sharp Cap capture software. I usually use take 2,000 pictures. I've tried, originally I started out with a lot less than I started out with about 80 or so. The reason I like 2,000 is because that takes advantage of the ability in the next software, the auto stacker, to select the best images. Remember I talked about earlier about the things that work against you, seeing, like things caused by working on heat coming off the ground over the roofs of buildings, etc. By doing the 2,000 pictures, you're going to have a lot of pictures. Some will be better, some will be much worse than the others, and so on and so forth. As you do that, you then bring it into the software, which is into I use an AVI, which is a movie format. And you can do it in 8 or 16-bit format, but I always recommend, and most people recommend doing it in 8-bit format to cut down the amount of time it takes to get the image. Once you get that picture, it saves it. You take that video and you bring it into the auto stacker program. And you set it so it selects about 60% of your 2,000 photos. It will automatically align, stack, and output that file in your choice of a TIFF or a FITS file. Then you import it into Photoshop, which I use, or similar. And that software, you can use it to sharpen, adjust contrast, and finally colorize your image. People who photograph the sun don't use a color camera because it won't give you as good a results. One is because a mono camera has approximately twice the resolution of a one-shot camera. It also has because of the there are 2 Gs and 1 blue component of a one-shot color camera, it actually throws away 3 of those components. So you're only picking up 25% of the actual image. So that's why people use a mono camera for that. And just a side note, any of you have done a planetary imaging, this is exactly the same process you use for planetary imaging. Okay. Okay, that's pretty much it. Most of those photos I did myself, but some of the information and illustrations were taken from these sites down below here. Most of them are NASA sites. severeweather.edu is a good one. And the very beginning, I showed the pretty picture of the sun and on the water. That was from a superb freeze wallpaper through the regular internet. So, anybody have any questions or anything about this? Anything I missed?
I just wanted to say one thing. First of all, your presentation was magnificent, as it always is. The couple of things that the newer astronomers need to know, or the newer members of this, is, for example, the sun is closer in the wintertime than it is in the summertime. So you saw a difference in the image that he showed. there's actually a 3% difference. The sun gets as close as 91 million miles and a little bit of change, and then it gets as far away in the middle of summer at 94 million. And that also helps with eclipses, because if the sun is a little bit smaller, you get a little bit longer eclipse if you got the moon a little closer. And the other thing is umbra and penumbra, he used that. And if you know anything about when you have an eclipse of any sort, mostly a lunar eclipse, you will get the darkest part is the umbra, and that umbra is the shadow of the Earth itself, and the penumbra is the atmosphere of the Earth, the sun going through that. And I just thought I'd just give that as a little clarification. But your presentation was fabulous, as always.
Thank you, Ken.
Sure.
By the way, I didn't get into the sun. There's a lot of fascination, things like the eclipses, solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, so on and so forth. So if you have specific questions regarding that, you can ask him, but generally I'd recommend saving those questions for when Ken does his next talk, whatever it's going to be on the solar eclipses, because he's Mr. Eclipse expert.
Oh, go on. Go on.
Great job, Bob. Very informative.
Indeed.
Thank you. What I do intend to do is gradually, I know we've now started our open houses. We had our last one a week ago, and unfortunately it was not particularly great weather or anything for it. We did get some nice views of the planet Jupiter and a little bit of Saturn. But since we can do the solar stuff, as we get on to some days when it's nice and clear, I can bring my gear out. We'll set it up so we can actually do some demonstrations of this. One thing I have done, the Oakland Astronomy Club is having public outreach programs. They've been doing it now for about the last 2 months, and we have developed a program where we can actually have the public come and they don't look through our telescopes. We have these cameras. In fact, that camera I use, my solar stuff, we set that up and we have it going to the laptop in that little tent thing I have, and people can go by and not touch the telescope, just go by and look into the tent and see the picture of the sun, whatever. And that can also be used for nighttime viewing too. That camera you can put onto our refractor, our 8-inch refractor. I'm sure it'll be spectacular with that. Or we could put onto an SCT also and show the views you get with the telescope to people without actually physically touching it. What I intend to do, I was going to do it at the last open house and the weather was no good, but I think that we will be able to use that camera at nighttime to show images through a telescope and shine them through our computer projector onto the side of our Dobbs shed, onto our projection screen that was built by one of our Eagle projects. And so people could actually see it on the side of the building without having to actually expose themselves to the virus by touching the telescope.
Very nice. Well, thank you, Bob. It's always good to have a solid observing talk as well as a astrophotography one. So I'm not quite convinced yet to lay out the funds myself, but I certainly missed breaking up my PSD.
Well, the funds for a astrosolar filter, the Bader, is relatively cheap. And if somebody wants to get that and they want somebody to make a cell phone, I'll show them how to make a cell phone. I'll make it for them. It's really cheap. All it takes is some single weight cardboard, and you can make the thing in probably half an hour or so.
Nice.
I thought that Jim Shedlowski was going to say something, but I think he was muted. Didn't you have a question or something for him? You're muted.
Yeah, Bob, I just a great presentation, very informative. But just a correction on the Carrington event.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was telegraph lines there.
Telegraph.
That's exactly
not you said teletype, so.
No,
telegraph.
Telegraph.
Oh yeah, they all went down. It was like weird.
What I mismeant was when it energized those lines, it was actually creating sparks on the desks of the teletype operator, starting fires on the desk of the teletype operators.
Yep.
Right. Exactly. Thank you. Bye.
All right, very good. Any more questions for Bob before we sign off for the night? All right, excellent talk.
Okay, thank you.
Diane, can you hold on? I want to see if I can get that image up on this thing after everybody goes. We just stick
Sure.
around for a minute, okay?
Will do.
Okay.
Regret we can't take y'all out for a good meal at the Red Coat, but next year, fingers crossed. So have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you at Virtual Macomb on
Okay,
the third Thursday.
okay. Good night.
Good night. Thank you a lot.
I'm gonna just,
Congratulations to all the new and
Good night.
returning board members,
yeah, congratulations to everybody. That's great.
Thank you.
and may the force be with us.
I'm gonna put this thing up there for a minute.
More work next year.
We've got your back, Diane. We know it's
Don't worry.
rough for yet another term of dealing with us crazy